Hello, everybody. You're watching the Mike Nelson Show. I want to thank everybody who's already subscribed to the channel. We've been around for only a couple years, and we already have over 1,000 of you that have already hit that sub button. And it really goes a long way if you do that. So make sure to hit the sub button. Make sure to like this video as well and share it to your friends and family who, of course, like rock or metal, or just if you want to support me. But today I got a couple pretty cool guests. I got a couple members from the band Agalloch. How you guys doing today?
Good.
Yeah, things are good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. As we know, we always for the ones that have been listening to the radio show in the last couple years, I play Agalloch all the time. You guys are one of my favorite bands. But if you could state your names and instruments for the listeners on the radio, that'd be great. That way, people can know who they're listening to.
All right. I'm John Hom. I play guitar and I sing.
And I'm Jason Walton. I play bass.
All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. So the band is back after a bit of a break. So how does it feel? You guys took a bit of a break. You're back the last couple years doing shows here and there. How does that feel?
For me, it felt like the band never went away because I was always working on, this or that business for like reissues, designs, and merch stuff for Eisenwald. So, even when I was out with my other band and doing, other things, Agalock was always there. It was always in the backbone, I guess, of my dealings. I don't know how it is with the other guys. Jason?
Yeah, for me, and I think I can speak for Don as well, it's something I don't really think about anymore. It's like it was like we were on break for a while. We took a little vacation. And I mean, Agawak is a huge part of all of us. And it feels great to be playing shows again and be doing that again. But honestly, it kind of feels like it never even happened. It was like,
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
yeah, it's like it's something that I feel like it's something that Agalock needed and we didn't know it. And then now I feel like at this point in time, we are a healthier, better, and stronger band than we've ever been. And we needed that vacation, and we were too close to it to realize.
I could have done without all the drama.
Yeah, I could have done without that too.
I
Yeah.
think we should have just maybe taken a hiatus, but
Yes.
hindsight's 2020.
Yeah. Some bands like say we're going on hiatus, we just like explode. Um,
Yeah, it was kind of a
but
shock announcement, right? Back in 2016.
yeah, but it's funny. It's like a lot of people like to focus on that, and it's honestly like something I don't even think about. It's just it's maybe didn't go down in the best way, but really it was a very positive thing in a lot of ways. It just took some time to understand like why this was a good thing. But again, we are a better and healthier band than we've ever been. So I'm grateful for it to a degree.
You mentioned something though. You mentioned that you think the band needed that break. Why was that? You mentioned something there, Jason, about that.
We were just hitting it too hard. We were playing too many shows. I think we were exhausting ourselves. We were exhausting the fans. Um, and we weren't hitting it as hard as like many bands do, but we had a really demanding, some of us had really demanding personal lives at the time that was hard. We all had different priorities. And now I feel like we're all just kind of in, I don't want to say the same boat, but we're kind of in similar boats now and we approach it from kind of a similar angle. And it just, Agalock got to be such a big machine and a big beast that it was hard for us to feed it all the time. And it just kind of imploded because of that. And it feels much more reasonable and manageable now.
Also, I think in my case, I really wanted to like hit it even harder,
Yeah.
and I did with Pelorian, and I hit it to the point where that burned me out. So I kind of got that out of my system completely.
And like I wanted to hit it hard with John, but I had little kids at home at the time. So it wasn't really an option for me to hit it hard with John. Um, but I think things now are just more manageable, and I really like to focus more on like what we're doing now than dwell on things that have happened in the past.
So it seems like when that happened in 16, you guys didn't think the band was done then. You guys always had that in the back burner. They would come
Oh, I
back.
thought it was done. Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah,
you did think it
it
was
was
done.
done.
it
Oh
was
yeah.
done. It,
Oh
it,
yeah.
it wasn't, I mean, the way
I
I'm
used the
saying
word
this,
I used the word permanent.
yeah, yeah. Well, I thought it was done for sure. We all thought it was done. But that's the beautiful thing about life, is that things can change and attitudes can change and perspectives can change. And over the years, we kind of realized like this doesn't have to be permanent. But yeah, I thought for sure that it was dead forever.
And
I
and yeah, go ahead, John.
was gonna say, and I was very happy about it being dead for a while. I was, really on fully on course to do new things and kind of have a whole new musical life.
Do you think you
But
were happy with it because you had an opportunity now to kind of explore your own thing, John? Is that why?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
What about
No,
you,
life
Jason? Were you kind of happy with the break? I know you mentioned you had some
no,
personal stuff, but how are you feeling with that during that time?
no, I was not happy at all. But, in retrospect, I think it was the best thing for the band. And yeah, it was hard, but life is hard. So, it wasn't my first choice to end the band, but like what John was saying, if we went on a hiatus, that would have been better for everybody because we would have known like at some point in time this is going to happen again. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just, it is what it is, and we survived, and like I said, we're better for it, I think.
Do you think you guys survived because you were kind of still like in talking terms then throughout those years, or do you guys
Oh,
kind of take a complete
Um,
like not even talking to each
no.
other? How did
I
that
didn't
go?
I didn't talk to John for, I don't know,
five,
six
five
years,
years at least.
something like that.
All
Yeah.
throughout COVID, then didn't talk to each other.
No, 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 no. It was not a very great breakup for a multitude of reasons. Um, and yeah, I was not in a position where I wanted to talk with John. But like I said, like, we got past that. Things change, attitudes change, and finally one day I was like, this is ridiculous. Like I'm being a stick in the mud here. And again, now it's like nothing happened.
I mean, let's be fair. I'm usually a stick in the mud.
You're usually the stick in the mud, but in this situation, I was being the stick in the mud for years.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate the way it went down, but again, I think it was the best thing for the band.
Was there like a moment or something that happened that kind of brought everybody together again? Was there a member that kind of initiated that whole thing again when you guys did that first show in 23 after 7 years?
Well, Don and John were talking for a couple years before I started talking with John again. And I just had, multiple people tell me like, why don't you reach out to John? Like you should talk to John. And so finally I just kind of realized like I'm the only one holding this up. And just because I'm holding a grudge or whatever stupid thing like that, I'm the one that's holding this up. And then, talking to John, it's like we realized like, this is not anybody's like particular fault. This is a two-way street. There's blame on both sides, and life is too short to worry about that type of shit. And I just had to get over myself upon recommendation from Don and a few other friends.
And when you guys kind of got back together, then it was like a that year in 23, you guys had to kind of get back into it, or was it difficult at first to play again, or did it kind
Well,
of all come back easy?
we actually started coming back together about a year before we
Yeah.
actually played.
So in 22.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Me too is when we started looking into maybe getting a different drummer and
Oh,
playing.
that was actually explored then. Okay.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We had
Okay.
to think about this for quite a while before, announcing anything or pulling anything off. There's a lot that goes into it, interpersonal between the three of us, and then yeah, a drummer. Like, what are we going to do for a drummer? So it took a bit.
Now, of course, let's fast forward to right now. Of course, the band, we're doing this interview because, of course, we're doing the promotion for the big show that's happening. The two big shows that are happening in L.A. and in San Francisco, opening up for Emperor. Talk to me a little bit about that, how that came about, and the story behind those, the decision to do these shows in the United States.
You know, Jason, because I don't.
I
How
know a little
that's
bit. I know a little bit. I mean, the shows of these size are mostly dealt with, with agents and promoters, but our agents said that Emperor and Emperor's management was interested in having us open for them on a couple shows. And so, it took a lot of time, a lot of back and forth, like figuring out where and when and our availability. And we were already pretty booked for this year. Um, but the stars aligned and we were able to do these two shows. And, I mean, I haven't talked to Emperor, but I've been told by a couple different sources that they specifically requested us. Um, so it'll be interesting to see if they actually are fans of Agalloch and if they actually do know us. But all accounts say that they requested us specifically, and we're just happy to be able to join them for a couple of shows.
So the plan wasn't to kind of do the whole tour then, just do a couple shows. I know Emperor's doing a lot of shows this year.
Yeah, no, I mean it's not really where we're at right now as a band.
I think we could have, I mean, I would have been interested in doing the East Coast
Yeah,
shows,
too.
but we had already agreed to do Northwest Terror Fest, which is the same weekend. So
Yeah, and we've got Fortress Fest next month too. So it's just a lot of stuff in a lot of different locations. There's only so much that we want to do, you know.
Yeah, so that's interesting because the band's been doing that the last couple of years, right? A lot of festivals and all that. Is that kind of where Agalloch is right now? Then you guys are just kind of want to do that and not do the full like run of like 20 shows in a month or something like that. You guys don't want to do that then right now.
I mean, we have nothing to really promote to do that.
No.
We don't have a new album. We don't have, we're just basically, for lack of a better word, we're kind of a nostalgic act right now. Because that's all we're doing is kind of revisiting the past catalogs that are getting reissued.
Hmm.
Maybe I don't know. I can't speak for the other guys, but if we made another album, I mean, I could see possibly doing a little bit more activity for that, but it's not really on the cards right now.
Yeah, it doesn't
So
really make sense to tour for albums that have been released, so long ago. And we're just doing what we can when we can, and it's we're calling all the shots, and there's no pressure from anybody, and we're just doing what we can, and that's it.
now you mentioned some John about like if the band releases a new album. So right now you guys don't have like anything done then in the last couple of years. You guys haven't worked on anything new.
We have one song. Um, we have a couple of things that could become songs, but I mean, for me, I only get inspired to write Agalloch-ish material like maybe twice a year. Because I'm so like in my own world with my solo stuff and other things in life. Um, so to do an Agalloch album, it's going to take a little bit more than just me writing for sure.
It would have to be like something like an EP then, like release a couple songs here and there.
Um, I don't like EPs. I don't, what do you think, Jason?
I don't know. I mean, I think, if we were to do something again, um, I think it should definitely be a full length, be something, a powerful statement. But it's just I just get really tired of thinking about Agalloch in these terms of like reunion or comeback or it's like we've always been Agalloch even when we weren't, and we've just been on this break. And if we do something else, it's just going to be a continuation of what we would have done otherwise. I mean, we've talked about doing a record, but we'll see. Um, I think that everybody would like to, but also we're just really having a good time just doing what we're doing now and just getting out there and playing shows again.
So yeah, you
Yeah.
mentioned it's been a good time in the last couple of years. You guys are enjoying like the pace of the band then right now, you would
Yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a glorified hobby at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah. I mean, you get to go to Australia, that was cool. We never did that before. Um,
We're gonna go to England for the weekend
yeah,
and Brazil
you,
for the weekend,
yeah, exactly.
Australia for the weekend.
Uh-huh. Spend more time flying than we are in the countries.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then because it's been so long since the last album, 11 years. I mean, I graduated high school literally like 3 weeks after that album coming out, I remember. So it's been you guys have changed a lot then as people, you would say then, like, from 2014, I would assume, right?
yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah. I went through my villain era for about 10 years and got over that. And then yeah, I don't know. It's funny too because like, the song that I mentioned that we kind of have, it was sort of my first foray into writing a dark metal song for the first time in since 2018. And so I wasn't even sure if I could even do it anymore. but I think it's pretty strong. I mean, Jason, I
Yeah,
mean,
I think it's great. I think that what John wrote, it's different because it's, years and years later, but also it's still John. It still sounds like Agalloch. It's still an Agalloch song. And if we do record something, then, Don and I will get our hands on it and it'll be even more Agalloch. And then it would be a fully realized Agalloch song. But, John hasn't lost it by any means. Um, but, we'll just see if we decide to actually pull the trigger and pursue it further.
yeah, because if we do, it has to be phenomenal, or
Yeah,
else no point in doing it.
exactly.
Now, in terms of the band, like releasing albums, I've always noticed, like listening to Agalloch's catalog, there's like a certain progression to each record, right? So that's why you were talking about if the band were to release the next album, there would be like, I guess, a progression then from the last record, right? Because you guys never like release the same kind of, how some bands kind of just release the same kind of deal every album. You know what you're getting. You don't know what you're going to get with Agalloch, right? So I feel like that's what makes it intriguing. And I assume as a band, when you're writing music, you're kind of thinking in that way, correct?
I mean, the song that I've recently wrote, it's kind of interesting because it doesn't sound like a continuation from Serpent. It sounds more like a continuation from Obsidian Arc, which was, a totally different band. But it's kind of got a lot of that vibe in it with a more sort of Agalloch atmosphere. So it's a little bit more aggressive, but a little bit also a little bit more melodic. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, this is just a demo version, obviously, but I'd say it kind of it harkens back to Marrow and Pale Folklore to me,
Yeah.
more than like the Mantle or Serpent or something like that.
Definitely Marrow.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like a Ghost of the Midwinter Fires type of vibe sometimes. And um, but yeah, but it sounds like John. It sounds like Agalloch.
Yeah, you mentioned Pale Folklore. Going all the way back to the beginning, I've always been interested with with that album because it was your first album, but at the same time it doesn't feel that way. It feels like a band that had been playing for many years, and there was some years leading up to that. But talk to me a little bit about that. How did you guys kind of put that album together? I know it kind of gets some people don't really talk about it, but I feel like it should get some credit as well. Talk to me a little bit more about that album.
Well, you spend your whole life making your first album, as they say. Um, so yeah, I mean, a lot of that material had been slowly building since, I guess, what, 1995 was when some of that stuff started. Um, I mean, a lot of that material's on demos, so it was kind of a collection of old songs and a couple of new songs. I kind of feel like Sheep Pen and Fire Across the Skyline doesn't feel finished to me because that was the last song that was written for that album, and it was literally like we were literally like putting parts together in the studio last minute. So it doesn't, for me personally, it doesn't feel like a finished complete package.
It was kind of rushed then, the album, that first
Not the
record.
album, but a couple of the songs were for sure.
You guys had
Yeah.
to rush it. Okay. This is because
But
you guys didn't have time to finish, like studio time and all that, or
I don't know. I can't remember what the reasons were. I think maybe we had like too many ideas and we just didn't solidify them before we went into the studio.
It was our
So
first it was our first album, so
yeah,
it's you don't now we would avoid mistakes that we were making back then,
right.
compositionally, recording wise. Also, the technology is much different. Um, but I feel like some of it feels a little piecemeal to me here and there. Even the production feels like a little bit. It feels like instruments are kind of disembodied sometimes, where it doesn't feel like a cohesive whole. But that was,
I think the drums sound like shit on that record.
yeah,
It's full
it's
on, like you can't even hear the toms. It's ridiculous.
yeah.
now with this album coming out at that time, what were you guys thinking? I mean, it's 1999. It was kind of an interesting time for metal in general. Wouldn't you say?
We weren't really concerned with the scene or what was going on. We kind of had our own little island. We weren't chummy with other bands or anything. So it was kind of strange for us to even be considered part of like the local scene. And a lot of people didn't even know we were from Portland because we were kind of We were just obscure. We were obscure on purpose. We didn't play shows. We didn't hang out. We just kind of did our little thing. And so for that, and I think that that album kind of shows that it has this sort of individualistic kind of quality to it that maybe wasn't nearly as predominant at the time in the scene. A lot of bands were kind of just riding certain trends, and we were kind of avoiding trends.
Yeah.
Um, because and it wasn't it was and it was just it was by design. It was, not by accident. We were purposely saying, let's not do this, let's not do that, let's try this instead.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, and the three of us, we have a lot of commonalities musically and personality wise, but we're also vastly different people. And we also listen to vastly different music than each other at times. And I think that comes together too. And I think it becomes a really unique album because of the slightly strange production and the weird little anomalies and the fact that it was our debut record. It's a little bit odd. Whenever I listen to that record, I'm like, it just strikes me as a little bit different than anything else.
You mentioned some, Jason. You guys listen to different music. So, what were some of like the influences then? Because I've always been kind of interested with you guys. You guys kind of mix so many genres together. Unlike other metal bands that are more straightforward. You guys have kind of made your own kind of thing. So, like, were you guys listening to just regular kind of metal, like the Judas Priest, the Metallica, or were you guys kind of more into the underground kind of stuff when you guys were growing up playing music before even Agalloch?
Underground for sure. I mean, of course, the foundation of Agalloch was rooted in bands like Oliver in the Woods, Catatonia, uh, Dissection, those kind of bands. But we were also, especially Don and myself, we're big Iron Maiden fans. We're also big fans of Gothic rock music, so we were listening to a lot of stuff like Fields of Nephilim and Sisters of Mercy and Love Like Blood and those kind of bands while we were also writing. And that was some of the stuff that, we were purposely injecting into the music. I mean, if you take a song like Hallways of Enchanted Ebony, it sounds like a really heavy Fields of Nephilim song.
Yeah, it's basically a Nephilim song, which is, I don't know if it's like that unique anymore, but at the time it was pretty unique to have that clean tone guitar, resting on top of everything else.
What were you listening to, Jason?
I mean, a lot of the same stuff, but I've never been quite into like the gothic rock stuff as much or like traditional metal. I never got into Maiden or Priest or anything like that really, but I've been like a huge Faith No More fan and
Okay.
my whole life, and Billy Gould really influenced my bass lines on that record, as well as like Skull from Ulver. So it's like a nice mix between like the really punctuated like rhythmic bass lines of Faith No More and then Skull and Over and his kind of walking bassline style. And um but we've all listened to like a lot of different music, and it just got worse. Like by the time we did the Mantle, it's just like such a bigger universe of music.
Yeah,
So yeah, go ahead, John.
plus, one of my biggest influences and one of my absolute favorite bands in the world is Rush. So
Okay.
you
Yeah,
hear a lot of Rush influence under the surface,
yeah,
especially in the songwriting, the way that they would, go through these different paths and stuff with especially their early progressive rock stuff. Um,
Yeah, geniuses for sure. Love
oh
them.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but I also really love their sort of later art rock style too. So all of that was combined it was in the stew, let's say.
yeah.
So it seems like when you guys got together and made Agalog, you kind of had no idea what was going to come out of it then, because you guys had so many ideas, you kind of just naturally made it happen then. Would
Well,
you
I
say?
mean, I did.
You had an idea?
Oh yeah. I mean, I wanted to start like because Agalloch started with me and Shane Breyer initially. And so like my initial like thought was I want to have a band that's American but doesn't sound American and has like all these different influences, and how would that sound like, And then when I met Don, that solidified even more these sort of non-metal influences and things like that. And yeah, I wanted Agalloch to be a sort of different kind of band, especially in America.
And that was because of what was happening in America then with the music scene.
Yeah, yeah, we didn't listen to a lot of American metal.
Like all
We
the new metal stuff and all that. You guys didn't like
Oh
none of
no,
yeah,
that.
even or
no.
even like a lot of the stuff that was going on in the underground was just boring. I mean, it was
No.
just a lot of satanic death metal, which was cool, but it wasn't what we wanted to do. You know, there was a lot of like brutal death metal that we weren't interested in. There was just a lot of thrash stuff that we didn't want to follow that path. We wanted to make music that was more of a European sound.
Yeah, we sounded so different from what was happening in America that there would be reviews in magazines that said that we're from Europe because it was so unusual to have a band that sounds like us from the States at that point in time.
Now, when people categorize like Agalloch as a genre, I mean, it's really hard to kind of put you guys in a genre. Wouldn't you say? I mean, I know there's some people out there that would kind of just say you're an extreme metal band, but does that kind of bother you when people try to pigeonhole you? Because you guys don't really have a defined. I mean, I can't say you guys sound like any other band. But maybe that's just me as I listen to you guys. But I mean, there's some people out there that like to kind of put bands in categories. I don't know what you guys think about that when in terms of your own project here.
I've always called our sound just dark metal.
Yeah, that's my favorite too.
I mean, and
Yeah.
that's you know, and that was the other thing is like, you know, I felt a lot of sort of kinship, I guess, to bands like Bethlehem,
Yeah.
and they had an album called Dark Metal, and I was like, man, that's the perfect way to sum up kind of what we're doing because it's not black metal, it's not death metal, it's but it's dark, it's different, it's dark metal. That's what it.
It's not just metal. That's inaccurate. So yeah, I've always thought that dark metal was the perfect way to describe it too. I don't really care what people call it, but it is misleading when somebody says like, "Oh, Agalloch's a black metal band." That's not true. You know, we have elements, but we are not a black metal band. Or when I've never heard anybody call us death metal, but you know, at certain times we have like more death metal than we do black metal. So it just seemed it's always misleading, but I think dark metal has always been like the best descriptor for us.
The worst thing to call us is folk metal.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah. That's the one that bothers me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
And that's been created. You would that's never been said by you guys though, like
Ever.
that you never called yourselves anything really. I mean, if you guys have always just kind of put music out there and that's it. I mean, I've never heard you guys ever kind of say, oh, we're this and that, we belong to this or that. I mean, I don't know if that's
Yeah.
accurate or not.
Yeah. Why box yourself in like that? I mean, we're not the most varied band in the world. There's definitely bands that do, that paint with a bigger palette than we do, but still, like, we go from Ashes to the Mantle to the White EP to the Gray EP, Faustian Echoes. We have a lot of colors on our palette, and there's no reason for us to be like, hey, we're just doing this because it's going to be inaccurate no matter what we say.
Now, with you mentioned the Mantle, Jason, does that kind of bother you when people kind of only bring up that album? Because you guys did record other albums too, but I mean, if you go on the internet and all that, that's all people talk about sometimes. Does that kind of bother you guys about that?
No, it's a solid record.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me, and I think that's changing, honestly. I mean, I think that was true 10, 15, or like 10 years ago. But now I'm hearing more people talk about Ashes and Marrow than the Mantle.
Plus, bands have that. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, Slayer, everyone talks about Rain and Blood, you know.
Yeah.
Metallica, everyone talks about Masters of Puppets or Ride the Lightning or whatever. You know, it's just like there's always an album that everyone seems to, you know, draw to more in
Yeah.
a discography. And it just happened to be the Mantle with us, which is kind of strange. It's actually the weirdest album.
It's
I
by
think.
it's by far the weirdest album we've done, but I'm just grateful that we have an album like that. A lot of bands don't have an album that people feel so passionate about, and I'm just thankful that we have that's something that people can grasp onto. And I think it has everything to do with like the time it was made and who we are as people and as musicians at the time. And it was just like lightning in a bottle. And it's, obviously we made the record, but it was timing too. So
Yeah, you talked about how you're lucky to have, this album. So what about like the success of the band? Like where did you when you guys started this, I mean, did you guys ever envision what happened with Agalloch, with what came out of it, the success, the household name you guys became in music?
I actually kind of flew in the face of it. the end records really wanted us to push our stuff and tour all the time and all this. And I was always, and I mean, I didn't even want to do interviews. I just wanted us to just put out a record and then be in the shadows.
I appreciate you
Um,
doing this one, John. Yeah.
why?
No, no, I'm just saying, I appreciate you doing the
Oh,
interview.
this interview. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I've
Yeah.
changed a lot since I was,
Yeah.
22. But
Yeah.
but no, I mean that was the thing is like we wanted like for the longest time we didn't want to have band photos. We didn't want to do this, we didn't want to do that. And that did not jive with the end. They wanted us to literally go door to door and sell our stuff. And, that became a problem.
Yeah.
Now,
So
yeah, go ahead,
so
John.
the fact that, we are successful or whatever is kind of weird because we kind of ran away from it or we it was chasing us, I guess, and we were running away from that kind of normal thing that bands do to get successful. We just didn't take part in any of that. We just did our thing and that was it.
You
Every
weren't really
time,
interested with that, the limelight then, at all, the attention.
No, not me anyway.
no, I mean, that's not why we do this. It's not why any of us became musicians. It's not why Agalloch is around. It happened to us, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the opportunities that we've had to go to and play in Israel and Australia and all the things that we've done, but it wasn't the goal. The goal was to, be with my best friends and make music.
Yeah, make records.
Yeah.
So you think since you weren't doing it for that, it was more, why was it then? Why did you go through all the sacrifice of being a musician? Because this it's a sacrifice, to be a musician. You
It
know,
didn't,
is
it
it
didn't
huge,
feel like
huge
a sacrifice.
sacrifice.
It
You don't
didn't
see
really
it that
feel
way?
Yeah.
No, it didn't feel like it to us. We were doing it on our own time, on our own terms for the most part. When we had contracts that we had to adhere to, we would not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the N wanted us to release an album every 2 years, and we said no. We'll do it when we have it.
We've always
But
called our own shots,
yeah,
and it's one of those things. It's not like we got into this to like make a career. It's because we love it and we love doing it, and we found people that we can do this with that resonate with us, and we make great records. And I would do this if nobody cared. It's thankfully people do care, but it's none of that is the reason that we do this.
I mean, technically, we do have projects that are passion projects that no one cares about. I mean,
Exactly.
all of us do.
Yeah.
And it's like I'll still release solo records even if four people pay attention to it,
Yeah.
because it's a passion thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of artists say like, oh, I don't have a choice. And I feel like that's perhaps like a little bit over the top, but it does feel like that. Like I mean, I make noise records that nobody cares about, but I still love it. It's in me. It's something that's in me that I want to get out, and it's who I am. I can't escape it. So it doesn't feel like a sacrifice.
So you would say, at least for both of you, you guys kind of both love music, and that maybe that kind of brought the band together. Then, even in the beginning, you would say just that love of playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you're, you know, into music genres that other people aren't. When you're talking early 90s and John and I growing up in Montana, it's nobody else really knew this shit. So yeah, of course we're gonna like resonate with each other.
You mentioned growing up in Montana. How did you guys kind of get into metal, this underground thing? Was there like some sort of like CD trading, or because it wasn't on the radio, obviously? So what would you credit the? How did you kind of get in? Was there somebody that kind of got into this music? How did it kind of happen for you guys at a young age?
Jason, do you want to get that, or do you want me to say first?
Um, I'll start it and then you can jump in. Um, I got into it from an exchange student from Finland. I mean, at a young age, I got into things like Ozzy Osbourne, loudness, strangely enough. And then it just progressed from there. I got into punk. I got into a lot of hair metal stuff. And then there was a Finnish exchange student in my high school, and I think I was wearing like a Black Flag shirt or something like that. And he was like, "Have you ever heard of Carcass?"
Wow.
And I said, "No, I've never heard of Carcass." And he gave me a cassette copy of Reputrefaction. And it was like right before Symphonies of Sickness came out. And it just changed my perspective on what music is and what extreme music can be. And it just forever changed my life. And from there you get into the underground, especially at that point in time, tape trading, zines. John and I did all of that stuff, and that's how we met, is through a zine, basically.
Yeah. You know, I have an older sister who is into a lot of rock and metal and stuff, so she kind of opened my ears a little bit to the fundamentals. And then I wanted to hear like heavier and heavier stuff and more obscure and underground stuff. So I got into the like a lot of thrash and early death metal stuff. And then I wrote to the band Devastation from Texas.
Yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah.
So I wrote to them because I bought their Signs of Life album in '89,
Yeah.
and I wrote to them to get like a merch list because I wanted to buy a shirt. And their bass player Edward wrote back and he sent me the list, but he sent me a bunch of flyers. And I asked him, I was like, what are these flyers? And he explained that these flyers are like for demos and underground magazines. It's this whole underground network. And that right there completely changed my life.
Yep.
Um, so from there, I would start buying demos and get into, buying magazine or underground fanzines. And then I started doing art for fanzines. That's how met Jason. And then I like my early projects in high school, I released demos, just doing it kind of the way that Edward, kind of taught me how to do it. And then I got into tape trading and it just snowballed from there. But I mean, for me, it was Edward Vasquez from Devastation. He like completely like put me on the path, I guess. I wish I could thank him.
Now, if you look back at your career with Agalloch, is there something that you would have changed, or do you have no regrets on how things have gone the last 25 years, almost 30 years now? Well, 30 years, right, since 95. But I mean, it's going to be 30 years. If you look back at the 30 years, is there anything you would have changed?
Yeah, everything. I mean, maybe not everything, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff that, yeah, of course. I mean, each album has stuff I would like to do different. There are certain things that we did, whether it be like live shows or even photos or whatever, that I would like to have done differently looking back. But I mean, what does it matter? The past is the past. You just learn from it. And yeah, Jason.
I look at things completely opposite than John a lot of the time, and I think that's why we work so well together. I would say no regrets. I don't really believe in regrets. Uh, every step we made, even if it was a bad one, informs who we are now, and I'm really happy with who we are now, and I'm really happy with the band that we are now. Um, and I'm sure, if I really thought about it, it's like, yeah, I would rather have like maybe like played this note differently or wrote a different bass line on this part, or like, yeah, we have a couple band photos that probably could have been better, but they're all stepping stones. It's all a learning process. And I feel like the most important thing to me is I don't feel like there's any like egregious errors in our catalog. I can stand by everything we've released, and we've always put all of ourselves into it. So I'm happy.
Now you
Yeah.
talk about, yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, okay. I agree with that. It's just, I don't know. I'm such a fussy perfectionist with everything that, I always have some issue with everything I do. So it's like when you ask me a question like that, it's just like, well, of course I have regrets, but it's not a serious regret. I think probably the most serious regret was just the way the band ended for those years. I think, like I said, I would have preferred that we did a hiatus rather than some drama filled
Public
split.
blow
But
up.
but even that's a learning experience.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can look at it both ways, and it's just rehashing the past is, you can, as long as you learn from the past, it's kind of pointless to rehash it. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm very comfortable with what Agalloch has always been, and it's pretty remarkable that it's been almost 30 years.
And of course, you're comfortable, of course, where the band is at now. You're doing these shows in May. What else? You guys are just doing the shows here and there, but what else? You guys are taking it day by day or month to month. What is the future of the band you would see? Like, what do you envision for Agalloch now? Do you guys ever think about that?
Nope, not really. I
Not really.
mean,
Take it
Jason.
by day, or yeah.
I mean, I think about it a little bit, I mean, but we're just in such a different position than we used to be. We're not out there trying to get fans. We're not out there trying to get noticed. We're not out there trying to get exposure. We've done all that. We're in a really good position. We don't need or want to do that. So we're literally just we're getting offers for things all the time, and we're just looking at what our schedules can take and what we think is cool and unique, and we're trying to only do really cool or unique experiences and performances, and that's kind of an ideal position for us to be in. um I don't want to play like some stupid little box venue somewhere in like Cincinnati or whatever. We're going to do something like really interesting. And that's all it has to be, I mean, it doesn't have to be anything more than that.
Well, you've made it to this position because of all the work and time, right? I mean, that's why you guys are where you're at 30 years later.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're in a position now where it's just,
But one can argue that, I'm sure there's bands out there that have hit it hard all their whole career. They didn't have a dramatic split. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. They probably piss them off to know that we have this attitude of,
yeah, for
you
sure.
know,
For sure. There's I can guarantee there's a ton of punk bands that have worked way harder than we have.
yeah.
I'm not saying, I'm trying to say it's about hard work necessarily, but it's we're in a position where we don't have to do that. So,
And I
um,
played a really cool box venue in Cincinnati in 2017. You're missing out, Jason.
what, uh, is that
Sorry, Cincinnati
no, that's
people.
Class?
No, that's you're thinking of Cleveland.
Cleveland, that's right.
But
Yeah.
I did play No Class too.
Yeah, I remember when you played that because that's where the fossil fuel guys are from. Anyway,
Oh yeah.
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 I digress. But yeah, for sure. I mean, and we have worked hard, but we've worked hard in different ways than other bands. It's like we've never been road dogs. We've never palled in a van for 6 months. We've never done anything like that. We've worked hard in other ways. And I think that for us, that paid off.
Yeah, I mean, I've done that. I did that after Agalloch. I mean,
Right.
that was the thing, that was the itch that I think I needed to get out of my system is I wanted to like, do a 30 date tour in a van and sleep in the van and, have all these luxuries or these non-luxuries that Agalloch always had. And do it in that way because I never really got to do that. And, I never was in a band, like say a punk band or an early death metal band or anything that played like tiny shows and toured in a van. We went from basically being um a band with two albums to basically doing big tours. It was kind of like what Panopticon did.
Yep.
They were kind of a studio band, and then suddenly they got popular enough that when they played live, they just did big tours. That's what we did, and so I kind of missed out on that like roughing it thing. And so I'm glad that I was able to do that. It sucked, but there's great memories with that too.
Yeah. I've never done that. I've always wanted to. And I think that, even though I'm not one for regrets, that is something I think about. I know so many musicians that are like, oh yeah, as soon as I was 18 or 19 or 20, like I hopped in a van with my friends and we just lived in a van for years at a time, playing like little shitty venues. And I know it sounds romantic. I know it's not awesome, but there is a lot of like awesome experience there. And I've just never had that.
You haven't lived until you've like spent the night in a van in a Walmart parking lot
Yeah, I've never done that.
just to get some sleep because you have to drive another 6 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never done that. I mean, I would have enjoyed doing that as a much younger person.
Right.
Now, since you guys didn't do that, did that kind of then pose a challenge when you guys kind of created your live show? Or because I mean, how did you guys kind of develop a live show then if you guys didn't kind of hustle it out like so many other bands? Like
Well,
a good live show, I mean.
we went through a period where we were pretty green. I mean, our early
Oh
live
yeah.
shows and I'd say our first like at least three tours, we were very
Mhm.
inexperienced.
Yeah.
Very, and you could tell. I
Oh yeah.
mean, it's embarrassing to look back on some of those videos, but we were kind of thrown into a position where it's just like, well, shit, we have to open for the gathering, and
Yeah.
we've played literally five shows.
Yeah.
So, it's like,
Wow, it's crazy.
Yeah.
yeah,
And I played shows in my high school band. Well, we all had a high school band that we played shows with, but it's a much different thing when you're, touring the West Coast with Antimatter and Virgin Black or the East Coast with the Gathering, in front of people that actually know your music, it's a much different beast than what I was used to. Um, but and that does inform what I did, but still it doesn't prepare you for like actual sound checks, actual tours, actual crowd response, like engaging with the audience, all that stuff. So yeah, like John said, we were green for quite some time. But we made the conscious choice, like we can either not do this or do it, and we should try. We should do it and see what happens. And sometimes it was really hard. That first tour was really hard.
But I mean,
But
our third tour was a bus tour in Europe.
yeah,
It's
good.
like, and that was like we once again we'd only had less than 20 shows under our belt when we did that.
Yeah,
It was strange.
it was very strange.
Now, if we fast forward to today, the band, if you guys do decide to put out a record eventually, what do you guys think of like, because now people don't want to buy music. It's really hard to make money off music or even to sell music. You guys are going to put it out. What do you guys think about all that with the current state of making music and all that? Especially it's been 2014 to 2025, things have changed a lot, right? I mean, Spotify was just kind of getting started then. It wasn't really what it is today.
Well, I mean, that's more of the record label's problem than ours. Unless we're self-financing and self-releasing, then of course. Um, I don't know. I like I've been releasing music consistently since 2014, and I've seen it change. And Jason, as you as well,
Oh
actually.
yeah, yep,
So you just adapt to it. You don't go in there with expectations that you're going to sell, 100,000 albums. You just go into it, make the best record you can. Um, and I for one want to sort of own the recordings from here on out. So it's
yes,
like, so if we're going to record an album, we're going to pay for it, and
yep,
then we'll license it to a label. So that I think that also makes a difference, from say bands who expect the label to like, pay them in advance and pay for everything. We don't expect that.
no,
Well,
We
last question. Yeah, go ahead, John.
just want the thing that we expect is to have a really high quality product. That's the only thing that we expect.
And that's always been the name of the game then for Agalloch, right?
Yeah.
High quality music. You
yep.
guys don't want to put anything that's like shitty or people,
Try not to.
yeah, trying to. Yeah, well, last question here. Just I usually ask this to the guests. What advice would you give? Because you guys have been doing this for a long time. What advice would you give to like musicians who are, maybe starting out, or or just the musicians in general? Would you guys have any advice for them that you guys have been doing this for a while?
Jason?
Yeah, I mean it's a cliche and it's been said by many people before me, but you got to go into it loving it. I mean, if you're doing it to make money or if you're doing it for popularity, like it's not a great plan. You gotta love it and you gotta dedicate yourself to it. And I've been very myopic my entire life. My whole life has been centered around enjoying and creating music in one form or another. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's just really informed who I am as a person. And so anybody that wants to, start out, like don't worry about like the minor details about, like should I put on Spotify? I should put a record, an LP, like what should I do? Just make the music and make good choices. And as long as you're pleasing yourself, that's all that really matters.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. Take what you do very seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't do it for a joke. Don't do it for whatever, for chicks or whatever. Just do it very seriously. Take what you do seriously. And I always hear people saying, the opposite of that. Like, don't take yourself so seriously. It's like, no, take yourself seriously
Yeah. I
because that's where the quality comes from.
yeah.
And just do the best you can to make a very good, serious product.
Yep. I agree 100%. And that's one thing that working with John really taught me. And I know other people that do this too. It's like you have to like put a little bit of levity in there, a little bit of humor in there, or like do something like that because it helps protect you. If somebody says I don't really like it, then you can be like, oh, I wasn't taking it that seriously. It's like you're hedging. But John taught me like you have to go like full bore into it and like really pour your soul into it. And you're going to get so much better product and really pay attention to details, packaging, production, make sure you get things mixed properly, mastered properly, like everything has to be exactly how you want it, or else it's not worth doing.
I mean, even if what you want to do is like lo-fi black metal,
Yeah.
make the best lo-fi black metal you can.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, guys, I really appreciate it. You guys have anything else to add before we wrap it up? Any message to the fans or anything you want to say here to close it out?
Well, we're looking forward to, playing LA again. It's been a while.
Yeah.
And of course, San Francisco as well. We always enjoy going back to San Francisco. So yeah, we're looking forward to playing some great shows and having a good time.
Well, I really appreciate it, guys. It was really great talking to you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys. Make sure to subscribe and thanks for watching, everybody.